Bye 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 bye. Hey, Duke Banners, how you doing? Hey, Jody Raynsford.
Hey, David Hellard. I do worry slightly that when we record on a Wednesday morning, we're probably not at our physical best. I always look absolutely fucked, and I haven't done anything. I've just woken up, and that's it. And
my physical best was probably 2012.
I don't think I've ever had a physical best.
2015, maybe.
I'm hoping in Gene Dyke style, my physical best is in the future some point, because I don't want to think that at any point I have been at my physical best so far.
I mean, the key is not to have run until you're 62. So I think you're on track for that. I think you are. You're the future Gene Dykes.
Future Gene Dykes.
Records are coming and tumbling. But how are we doing? I've been to my first track session in about 4 years.
Oh, how was that?
Yeah, it was good. It was I went to
where did you do it? Was it somewhere new or somewhere old?
Yeah,
were you welcomed like a friendly old face, or were you sneered at like, oh, it's you? Oh, suddenly you decide to show.
It's a running club, of course it's not open arms. And no, I mean I haven't been back to his side yet.
No.
Just because I now live in Peckham and I'm on the train, and sadly that journey.
You're like, fuck you, Heathside.
No, I'd love to go back. I do.
But wait a minute. Peckham's south, isn't it?
Yeah,
Peckham's south, Heathside's north.
Yeah, so
you're not allowed, are you?
Bitter rivals.
That kind of apartheid exists. The London north-south apartheid.
It does, and I've changed from being the rich side to the poor side. So South London's a bit more edgy. Still got it going.
How the fuck is Peckham poor? How the fuck is anywhere in London poor?
Peckham's got stabbings everywhere.
Yeah, no, but they're very in vogue stabbings.
They're with a cheese knife, but
Could you imagine you could stab someone around the corner with a cheese knife? That's when you never see it coming.
But yeah, it was good. I went to City Runners, the evil one, not the good one. And
the evil one. You went to the evil one.
I went to the evil ones, which is
were they properly evil? Were they? Ha 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 ha.
They were less evil than I was hoping for, because there's an element of evil that is almost excitingly appealing, and this wasn't that. This was just nice people. But it's been a while. Well, 4 years or three to 4 years, I think, since I've last done a session. And it was really good, really like exactly what I needed, which was quite nice to. Although I'm now injured.
What was exactly what you needed? What do you see that as?
I turned up, and so Briggsy was there. Briggsy's been 2 or 3 times before in the past, and they have 2 track sessions in a night, and this one had 9 groups, and this is the second one.
Is that a lot?
I mean, what do you reckon? If you think about our favourite group 5 from Newcastle, Timebridge Harriers.
I suppose so. Yeah.
This is group 9. So,
wow.
But it's really small groups. They chopped us up into groups of 4, 5, and 6. So in his side, you kind of.
And how did you feel about which group you were in? Were you like? I think you might have made an error here. I think I need to go up to that group, or I think you made an error here. I need to go down to that group. Yeah,
I'm not that guy who's. I'm not the ego wanting to be above my station. I'm more of I'd rather people don't notice that I'm not where I would want to be. I'll just meld in here. But it's very different to his side. For example, you turn up and there'd be a talk at the beginning. They'd be like, anyone new? And you'd kind of feel your way if you're in group 1, group 2, group 3. You pretty much, as a runner, I think, if you have a choice of 3, most people know where they'd want to be in a choice of 3. Some people are like, oh, I've got to be in the top group. Some people are like, oh, I've got to be in the bottom group. And other people are like, I don't want to be in the top group or the bottom group. So it's an easy choice.
Yeah.
This one, you pay in advance and you put in what you think your 5K time is at the moment, and they then select you based on your times.
Oh.
Yeah, which seems very sensible.
That's very sensible.
But also there's less jeopardy. And
there's less danger.
It's less danger. Yeah. So we had 15 400s, and some guy spoke to me a bit before, but I, inevitably was talking to Briggsy mostly before.
Sorry, just say that again. You had 15 400s.
Yeah, but
right, explain that. Explain that for people that don't know what that means.
So one lap of track, 400 meters. Hopefully, most people listening to the podcast know that bit. Unless you're in Regent's Park, where it's 300 meters.
No. I do think is. I honestly don't.
Or in Chamonix.
You got to say most people don't do track sessions.
Yeah, it's true.
Most people don't. So you do what? You mean you do it once and then you wait a bit and then you do it again, or you just do it again and again and again? I don't think it's that obvious to most people.
This was quite an unusual. I've never done a session like this before, which was quite nice about it. Is because it's early on in the season. So Heathside, for example, I've done 400s where you do 12 or 16 400s, and you have 45 seconds rest between each 400.
Right,
and that is brutal. And I think you do them in sets of 4. So you'd have a 2-minute jog in between the 4. But by the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 45 seconds is really short. And because you're running fast. This was different. This was 90 seconds as a break. And 90 seconds is enough that your heart rate goes right back down. And so huge difference being with a 45-second rest, you're there, basically, your lungs are the limiting factor.
Yeah.
Whereas this is more, if you set the right pace, your legs, your fatigue, lungs potentially, but you do a rep of, I think you do 5 of them, and then you'd have a 3-minute break. Which is a long time when it's cold in the dark. But yeah, it was good because my fitness isn't where I want it to be. But I don't really ever run fast. Even when I'm doing my intervals that I've done by myself, it would be up and down a slight hill on the side of a road for half a mile. And so 400 meters with massive pauses, you're going quick. So loved it, actually. I ran there and ran back, which is a bit stupid. And that's kind of flared up my injury, which then with another workout session now seems to be properly bad again, which is frustrating. But yeah, I'd certainly go back. And it's nice just having almost the thought process taken out of it by having someone there telling you when to go. And also, we had a nice little group of 5 of us, and having people to actually run with and to pace off and to kind of challenge yourself with a bit, get that little bit of competitiveness, it does make a difference to your training. So yeah, really good. I'll be back, probably not soon, but just because of injury again. But yeah, and it's more, I'll have to tie it in sensibly because it's 3 miles from wherever I'll be, whether that's work or home. So that's an extra 6 miles onto a track session, which is a fair bit. So, but yeah, I mean, I'd recommend anyone, if you're worrying about going to a track session, just go and do it. And there's a guy in our group who stepped up from the group below, who was nervous, and he held on. He did really well. It's really cool.
What is the aim of a track session like that? Is it to, I know what the aim is, ultimately, but what is the aim to maintain an even pace through? Because 15 is a lot. It seems a lot.
Yeah.
So is it to maintain the pace throughout, and try and get them as close to each other as possible, so that or is it to basically to cane each one as hard as you possibly can? What's the goal, and what's the?
It partly depends on where you are in your cycle, what you're going for. But I'd say generally you want that even pace. But if anything, we were upping our paces by the end. So I was starting on 78 as a nice rep, and then by the end, I think the last 2 are like 74, 73, 72. So, but that was partly just out of the unknowing and fear of no concept of what a good pace for me would be. Yeah. And so I started at what I thought was a sensible one, like relatively conservative. And then at the end, when you've got 5 left, you're like, okay, let's flog this. But yeah, you certainly don't want to be starting faster than you're finishing. Because
when I've done it in the past, I mean, you talk about upping the pace. When I've done it in the past, I've not really done it in terms of pace. It's more about perceived exertion. And so when it gets to the end, the rate of perceived exertion is really high, yet my pace is really, really shit.
Yeah, and that's partly fitness. That might also be pacing. But I always say to people, if you're going to do an interval session, the first one, like, don't even, just really take it easy. See it as like a.
You think that's it? So you think the first time you do an interval session, don't try and smash it round there. Just try and take it at an even pace.
Yeah, even now when I go out, I'll do my first one. Will be probably the slowest of all of them because I'm, and you've got to be a pretty regular runner to know what your pace should be. And
how long does it take? How long does it take? Do you think until you kind of get really
it's more about your pace? It's more about regularity. So as soon as I was training for a marathon, when I did my first cycle of hard training, I think it's the first one, I'd be able to run marathon pace, half marathon pace, straight off the bat. You could say run like, was it 6:51 or something, and I just do it. So it's because you're used to that exertion level. So, but also it really helps if you go to something like track because you're surrounded by people that you probably have an approximate estimate of how fast you are in comparison to them. And so everyone almost self-checks against everyone else, and you get this collective group wisdom of pace, which sounds like a weird thing, but there used to be a guy called Martin I'd run with a lot, and he's probably 9 years older than me, super fast, super experienced, super lovely. And I'd always have him there in my sessions, and he was the guy that was leading the sessions. You'd be like, right, what pace should I be doing? Oh, Martin's there, I should be here. And it was that, and that would keep me in check for the first year or two, I'd say. And
what is your goal from one session to another? Is it to slightly increase the pace each time? What is, or for the recovery to be easier? How do you kind of know what your progress is, and how do you, what would you say is a successful track session as opposed to one that isn't successful?
I'd say a successful one for me is when I feel I've paced it well, because in your site, if you think of people who are trading in blocks, you've got 3 weeks of almost what's a lovely phrase for it that I googled the other day, progressive overload, and then you have a week of where you're less mileage to try and recover a bit. So it could be that you're getting faster, but you're not getting faster on track potentially because you've had a longer run, you've had a harder tempo run. You've just got that fatigue in your legs. So, but say this session we did with a 90-second rest, that's really good because that's more for speed, and it's after Christmas, beginning of most people's marathon block cycles. So it's not absolutely flogging your lungs. It's like, let's try and get some pace in your legs without absolutely killing yourself because you've got these rests. Whereas towards the end of the season and say the marathon cycle, you could start off with some mile reps or something just to really kickstart, right, we're doing distance now. And then by the end of it, you might do we'd end up doing like 5 1-mile reps that would be super fast for where we'd been at the beginning of the year. So if you're going for 5Ks, you'd want to do shorter gaps and try and almost replicate what it's like running really fast 5Ks. For longer distances, you'd want to do slightly longer reps, and you might be the break in between is whether you're looking to replicate almost the speed of a race and you're looking for stamina, or longer ones if you're looking to get like speed at greater distances. So you can almost logically think about what it's doing to you and therefore sculpt a session based on, I want to get good at park runs, so I'm going to be doing, you could even do 300 meters. And short breaks if you're trying to replicate racing the park run, long breaks if you're trying to get your speed faster because you think your stamina's all right.
Yeah.
But we have we have a topic to discuss, don't we? Which has been on our radar for a while.
Oh, goodness. I forgot about it last week. And then suddenly I remembered it again, and it angered me. And we both saw this thing independently, and it both angered us independently as well.
Angered me so much. And I'm sure most people would have seen this as well. Most people who are on social media or read any kind of running content. Come on, Jody, hit us with it. Hit us with it.
So it was, I don't really know how to describe it. It's almost like Runner's World decided to write a hit piece on alcohol. Wasn't it? It's like, and that's kind of what it is. It's like, this is what we're going to do is we're going to, and it feels as though, and I'm going to put this down, and I hope this it wasn't like to, but I'm going to put this down as they're going for clicks here. But essentially it was just going, there was no under it, there's no circumstances which alcohol is ever good for you, and so like we need to almost demonize it.
It says, does running have a drinking problem? But then there's one quote. Have a
drinking problem?
The answer to that is no. How many has Mo Farah come out saying I was having issues because the night before 10,000 meters I was drinking a bottle of Jack Daniels. It's not footballs from the 90s. It's not football from the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. Where they're having like they're drinking and they're gambling and it's so fucking. The whole premise of it is so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. It's Runner's World sponsored by like a load of booze companies. Oh, mate, wait a minute. I've just got to let someone in. Sorry. I mean, a dishwasher is supposed to be fixed. And
I thought it was maybe give a brewery delivering. Like
exactly. I know, yeah, my beer 52 delivery. Wait a second.
So Jenny just returned.
I've just returned. Actually, no, I've just returned because I got a washing machine repair guy came. To fix our washing machine, dishwasher, to fix our dishwasher. I stood down there, so I had to cut off the this interview, and I was just stood down there trying to just make chat with him as while we're waiting to go through. And I go, "Oh, it's a bit annoying not having a dishwasher." He goes, "First world problems." I'm like, "You're a fucking dishwasher repairman. Like, you entirely rely on first world problems. Don't fucking judge me because this is your job. This job does not exist in fucking sub-Saharan Africa, you motherfucker. Like, this is well, you can't fucking judge me for. I'm just trying to make chat. Fuck you.
You should have said, "You're right. I don't need to fix it. Get out. Get out. Take it back."
Sorry, I just remembered that as we got on the call there. I was like, while we're getting angered at stuff. All right, what we were talking about. Yes. Drinking.
The hit piece on alcohol. And it really was, I think what was, because I've had my relationship with Runner's World articles has kind of ebbed and flowed over the years. But actually, recently, last few years, I thought they've been brilliant. I thought they've just written some really good pieces. I understand why they do some pieces, but actually they do some really good stuff on research and training, but also some really insightful things about people. Whereas typically this would be written as a new research shows that actually ... and ideally looking at research to then back up something that's useful for runners to know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think the thing is with this, it's not as though we're in a situation with cigarettes back in the 50s. Like, no, everyone knows that
what is the problem? What is the problem?
What is the problem? Where is
the problem? And then they're saying that the things they quote as examples of it has a running problem is that it's too closely linked to booze. There's things like a beer mile group. There's a running club that's called themselves the drinking club with a running problem. You're at the end of a race, you'll get given a beer sometimes at some races at the end. And you're like, okay, but that doesn't mean it's a problem. Like that just means that some people, and very few, have you tried trying to get, we talked about track, have you tried trying to get people to go for a beer after track? Good luck, mate. Good luck with that.
I mean, the thing is, the thing I thought when I started working at like men's running was, why is there never any alcohol at these events? That was the main issue that I had, which is, it says more about me than anything. But to say that running has a drinking issue is just so ridiculous.
It's
like
so
you say,
ridiculous.
I mean, the ridiculous, and they give some examples of a couple of runners who said, oh, I've had some drinks before, and maybe it was a bit too much. And that's it. You're like, really? Is that like shitty anecdotal evidence? Sometimes I've been for a run, and after the run, I probably drank a bit too much. But I've been for loads of runs. Like, if you're having a drink every time you run, that is an issue. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any evidence pointing to anyone who that's an issue for? Every time I run, I have a drink afterwards. How the fuck are you tying the two things together? So there were some other things as well. Someone pulled this one out in the comment. Alcohol is much part of the fabric of our sport as energy gels. What the fuck are you talking about? What is that comment? That is so fucking stupid. I don't even understand what that is. It's as much part of the fabric of our sport. When you think of, when we go to the National Running Show, it's all the booze, all the the alcohol companies there.
People aren't going.
Just
look, guys,
overflowing with it. The thing that made us stand out in the first running show we went to is because we're the only place that had booze.
Yeah, and we weren't allowed booze. We
weren't allowed booze. That's it.
And even like energy drinks. When does someone stand on stage and go, right, guys, this is week 7 of your marathon training, so now we need to talk about boozing more?
Oh, God, that would be good. That would be good, though, wouldn't it?
and there's even a quote that they highlighted that says, the truth is there is no safe amount of alcohol, not even 1 drink a day. And like,
safe is the wrong word, though, isn't it?
There is a safe amount of alcohol, which for me has been all the alcohol I've ever drunk. Because I'm absolutely fine, and
it's the word safe. It's
safe.
It's the language that they're using.
Yeah, and it really, really, really angered me because I worry that it just stops people from socializing or stops people. Can we not take everything so seriously? And there are alcoholics in life. There are people who have drinking problems who run, but I genuinely don't think I've ever met someone who has a drinking problem because they run. And I'd almost go further and say, I can't think of anyone whose health hasn't been improved and probably drinks less because they've run. And it's so unnecessary. And why also make people feel bad about doing something? And let's be honest,
they want to make it's almost as though they go, we want to make a point about drinking because we want to jump on the sobriety bandwagon, because that's obviously a trend where people very visibly and vocally giving up alcohol, as we can tell in the comments, trying to tie it in this way to, I would even suggest, the like hashing, which is probably the most closely associated thing with drinking.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say that there is any issue. They talk about them having a drinking problem, but I still wouldn't say that. I would say the positives of that far outweigh any potential negatives that you'd have, because it brings people into running in a different way. And again, it's so, the thing, the more I look at it, the more it fucking angers me. Even the on the Instagram thing, it's got this, do you have a drinking problem? And it's so ridiculous. Like,
and
one of the questions is, if alcohol impacts insight, so your drinking may not seem serious until it's well into that category, right? So no matter what, so if you're doing any drinking, you may not be answering these questions right, because you may not be able to understand it, because alcohol affects everything.
But so, why don't we change it? Does running have a dullness problem?
Well, I was going to say,
it does.
There's a reason there's a reason why when we, and part of the reason to do with why BBR probably broke out with certain groups is the fact that we have associated it with drinking because it's fun. It's like combining the two things are fun and it works well. And running and drinking, those are fun things. And I don't see that there's any kind of negativity that can necessarily come around it. There's always a few people that take things too far, but there's always people that take things too far. So, and I think that speaks what you're saying about the dullness problem is the fact that it actually it speaks to the fact that most people do like a drink, and there's nothing wrong with that, and we shouldn't. And if you combine it with running, that's fucking great. That is brilliant because you're doing something, and you're doing something social as well, which is great from a mental health perspective. And if you don't want to do it, you don't have to.
But also the structure of our society is such that if you don't go for a drink after running, what do? Because most people run at night, often. Weekends slightly different, but you can go to the pub or you can go home. And I'd suggest actually socialising with people in a pub is better than everyone just going home by themselves. But I've just realised actually on the run, because I did comment on the Run as Well post, and I've realised.
I was going to say your comment. I say that someone's left a comment here. Caffeine bullets.
I didn't realise I was
bloody hell.
Caffeine bullet.
Can some of us enjoy a drink without being labelled alcoholics or implying with the devil? I don't think drinking's good for me. I don't know what it does. I know what it does to me, and I love it. I sometimes drink a bit too much. Not often, and most of the time it enriches my life and my friendships. Sometimes I don't drink, sometimes I do. But stop judging me because you had issues. Am I not allowed to eat chocolate ever because there's mass obesity? I bet chocolate's the next fucking thing. That'll be the next thing. That's the, God, it's just, there's so much wrong with this.
Yeah, and so I'd love to, what do you think? Should we get the writer of this on? And just
I don't necessarily know it's the thing is, people are commissioned to write things, and sometimes you are commissioned to write things at an angle. So this person's been selected to do this, and they might have been commissioned to write this in this way.
But I'd love to talk to them about how did this article come about, and actually understand what leads to an article like this, because I think that's interesting, right? To get a sense of who pitched who they spoke to, and that doesn't even try to have a counterpoint. There's no attempt, is there? But
it's weird. It's just there's so much that's weird with it. It's like it just feels as though it is entirely created to just polarize. It's just like, oh, we're going to get a bunch of people who are going to talk about how sober they are, and they're going to be very, very, forceful about it, and they're going to completely agree with it, and they're going to love it and share it because it backs up their perspective. And we're going to get a fuckload of people who are going to go, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, this is utterly ridiculous. And so it's almost like, it's been created for that purpose, all under the auspices of, oh, we're trying to highlight a problem. Or we're trying to highlight particular problems. I'm like, okay, you're going to highlight obesity next? Because I know that if you do that, you're going to fucking really piss off a lot of people who, struggle with their weight as well. But I don't think, are you going to have it? Oh, do you have an obesity problem? Are you going to run that? I think drinking's an easy target at the moment.
Yeah. And
it's a really easy target.
So I got distracted by a few of the comments. So there is a guy. There's a guy called DJ Curly. Maybe we should get this guy. And he said, I qualified for the Olympic Trials Marathon with a 2:17 in 2017 while DJing 3 nights a week and often having 2 to 4 drinks each night. But then the next one says, I'll add a question. Does the thought of never drinking again make you uncomfortable? I'm like, it doesn't make me uncomfortable, but it's like, does the thought of not seeing one of my friends every day make me uncomfortable? That doesn't make me uncomfortable, but it makes me sad because I enjoy it. Like, does the thought of never going to the cinema again make you uncomfortable? Well,
that's it.
It's anyway. Yes,
there is no safe amount of. There is no safe. I mean, everyone else is like going in there. I'm uncomfortable if you ask me that about Diet Coke. Someone has written that. That's it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great. It's great that people have quit drinking and things like that. But it's like that's your decision, and that's great and everything.
I don't think it's great.
Well, no, it's great for them. It's great for them. Like that is great for them. That's their decision they made. They felt that that's what they had to do, and that's great for them. And and obviously they're very, very proud of that fact.
I mean, I think it's good that people have taken an active choice to improve their life in how they in a way that they think would improve their life. I think that's great. Is it great that people have stopped drinking? I'd say no. I think it'd be much nicer if everyone had a healthy relationship with alcohol, and people could, drink when they want to, not drink when they want to, rather than having to be absolute. That would be nice for everyone, but some people don't want that or can't handle that, or
What's interesting about this is that I'm just thinking about like amateur football. And like there's a group of dads from the school and stuff, and they all go and play football every week. It's like a kickabout type thing, pretty relaxed type thing, and they all go to the pub afterwards. Would you honestly go, does an amateur like football kick around have a drinking problem? The whole thing is entirely social. It's entirely, it's great for their mental health. It's great for them, their physical health. The whole package together is an improvement upon staying at home and doing nothing. And to pull out that thing. If you said to me, imagine running without drinking in the future, and I would say, fuck that. I honestly, imagine not being able to do. But I honestly, I think the two things. I have so much fun when we do the beer-a-thon. I have so much fun when we do
beer lovers.
I have so much fun. Like you go for a run and you go to the pub afterwards, and you don't necessarily need to drink alcohol or stuff like that. But a pub wouldn't exist if they didn't serve alcohol. I mean, we got to think you're not. There's I think there's one or two non-alcoholic pubs or whatever, and everything. But that's kind of irrelevant. I don't know. It's just I would ask you a point, because this is something else that happened. I'm generally against people banning stuff for the good of other people. I think it's better to help people develop a better relationship with those things. Although in the case of food, we've already talked about that.
Are you trying to bring back the Nazis again, Jody?
I'm not trying to bring back the Nazis. No. Well, this is the fascism. At its early, this is proto-fascism being shown here by Run as Well magazine. Although Hitler was apparently abstinent and a vegan as well, so I don't know what that says. Although that's not true about him being a vegan, but banning cigarettes. Right? Have you heard this about in New Zealand? They're going to ban cigarettes.
Yeah,
completely.
Yeah.
So there's going to be an entire generation where you're not allowed to buy cigarettes at all, in the hope that in a generation's time, all the health benefits will be felt and everything like that. And I can see that from a medical perspective. And, cigarettes are bad for you, and they're terrible for you. They cause cancer and things like that. But there's something about that I just fucking hate. I don't. And there's just something within me. The idea of completely banning something that, rather than.
You're a libertarian at heart, aren't you? You're out there with Trump.
I don't put me with fucking Trump. No, I'm not. No, I don't. I just don't. I don't know. There's something about it. What do you think? I mean, I know we're not going to. We all know from the history of stuff, banning stuff doesn't work, because there will always be people that want it, and and that what's going to happen is going to create a black market in New Zealand. And
I don't know if it will, to be honest, because it's about cutting the tie between someone taking up smoking and not. And our 13-year-olds or 15-year-olds is when you start smoking, right? In a need to be cool or to fit in or to rebel. Are they going to be seeking out black market cigarette sellers? I'd suggest probably not. But I think what it does do is it doesn't recognize the fact that there is an element of our culture, a percentage of people that want to do something that's rebellious. And if you look at it's always quoted, but if you look at the number of drug addicts in the US before the Richard Nixon crusade against drugs, before Barbara Bush came out telling us...
Barbara Bush came out? What?
Yes, she did. She no longer said no to that side of her life. But I think it's 0.07%, and that's just a number that for some reason I think is the number, but in my head was the number of drug addicts in the US, and that hasn't changed from like the 1900s through to now, no matter what's happened with the war on drugs. And so I do think it's a lovely, I can understand why they want to completely ban cigarettes, and it is a good thing if we stop people smoking, because there really isn't much. The only enjoyment is the agitation it gives you and then the release of that. But then I'm not a smoker, but those individuals who would have smoked will do something else instead.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what we don't know how it's going to pan out yet. And does it mean they're going to be taking different recreational drugs instead? Does it mean they're going to be, there'll be something that is the equivalent, that is young people do this because it pisses off their parents, and it's not good for them, and it's rebellious, and it's naughty, and it's bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, the rebellious aspect is one part, and I can see, and the social aspect is one part, and the behavioural aspect is one part as well. That, you know, because as rebellious as it is, like, there is also proof that, you know, if your parents smoke, you're going to smoke. You know, if your parents drink a lot, you're going to drink. If your parents eat a lot, you know, obese, you're going to be obese. So there's that rebellious aspect. There's also the, you know, aspect of when you see it around you, you see people doing it.
When it's normalized, yeah.
Normalized, and, you know, and habits pass on in the family and everything
and marketed.
Else. And marketed, yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know, has the marketing, I mean, we're smoking wise, I think we're at our lowest level ever, but I think it's going back up again. I had a really good statistic in the 1950s, like 92% of men smoked, which is an incredible number. In the UK, 92% of men in the UK smoked in like 1950. Like,
wow, that's pretty. That is
cool.
Amazing, actually.
No. But anyway, fuck Runner's World.
Should we do a quick news roundup of stuff then? Things I've got quite a lot of things on my list. So, firstly,
okay,
Winter Bob Graham round's been broken now by Elsie Davis.
Winter Bob Graham, my
so God. The male one was broken. Are we speaking
to someone at the running show about Winter Bob Graham?
Yeah, James Gibson. Yeah,
perfect. Okay, yeah, we do. Yeah, we need to explore that, because that is awful.
Yeah,
it's awful, isn't it?
So congratulations, Elsie. She's quality.
Wow.
And Effie Golden Trend as well. She's a lovely person. So then what else have we got in the news? We've this I thought was really surprising. Camille's 12-hour record's been broken.
Ooh.
Which I genuinely didn't think anyone could do that. Like,
how much by it? Like, a lot, or
not a massive amount, actually. And well done to Dominika Stelmach, lovely person as well, Polish ultra runner. So she's run now 94.8 miles in 12 hours. But I think the thing that surprised me is, and Camille had 92.6. So actually, it's a decent jump up. But my impression has been that Camille has been so head and shoulders above everyone else these past few years.
Yeah.
When it comes to track running, when it comes to just road ultra, flat ultra, non-trail ultra. And so it's really exciting, actually, that we've got someone else now, because we're going to be speaking to Camille. I think we would have just spoken to her by the time this comes out, but next week or 2 weeks' time. And so we'll find out whether this spurs her on, like what her view is. But finally, we've got a bit of competition in the women's, and also this could potentially have a big impact on Camille's focus, because when we spoke to her last, which was 3 years ago, she was really wanting to be the first person to break the 48-hour record and to take the overall record, men and women's, which would have been super cool. And she's had various setbacks these last few years, but whether this now changes her focus and she's actually thinking, I need to almost sort out my backyard, win my crown back before I can go on for these bigger things or not. And she's recently changed sponsors as well. I don't know if that's been announced yet. And so
I saw that. Well, I don't know if she's changed it, but she's certainly talked about leaving Hoka.
Yeah.
on it. And she certainly talked about that in the relationship they've had. So
there will be a new sponsor. You'd think would be wanting new records, right? In the new kit, in the new shoes, there's going to be more pressure on her to do that and not just be the GOAT, but actually be getting in front of cameras, breaking records.
Yeah.
So well done, Dominica, for one. And I've been approached by someone for business. So actually we've got a mix of things. We've got things we could talk about. That we've got an Italian runner. We'll talk about that later. Italian casual runner who's been done for drugs, who has got an almighty ban. But I was approached by, I'll just see if I can find it, someone to do with Cafe Bullet. And their approach on LinkedIn was, by email, was just, "Hey, David," I'll read it out. "I've stumbled upon your profile and noticed you're a marathon runner."
No one stumbles upon your profile.
"And founder at Beer Belly Running. If yes, snap. COVID has been a pain. I've not run 26 miles in a couple of years. I went out and did a half the other day and felt like my lungs would explode. I was aiming for 124 and I did 150. Lol. When was your last event? Marathon exploits aside, would love it if there's any scope talking web development, marketing and sales with you."
I hate AI. That is total AI, isn't it? AI chat, write an introduction related to running for this web development email.
No, I think you've got to run those things if you're quoting it right. I even said did a half the other day at the Velodrome London. So it was. I just find I've had a follow up since from the same guy, and it's along the same lines. So it then goes, "Hey David, I thought I'd check in again to see if we could support you with any web development, marketing and sales. We're based in London. ... My worst marathon was in Malaga when I woke up 1 hour late, hungover, and had to run to the start line with my Airbnb. I could hear the klaxon and did the whole run in cotton shorts, which, well, you know the rest. Lol. Call this week, David." So, have you ever had? I just find it really confusing that. I guess the notion is, I think, oh, this person's a runner. I'm a runner. Let's do business. But I don't know if it works as a cold email.
I don't know if it works like that. I don't know if it works like that at all.
But would that work for you?
No. But well, let's think. What cold emails have ever worked? The cold emails that have only ever worked are ones where I've needed something and it's just happened to pop in front of me. No amount of trying to
or they're proving real value.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm so skeptical about other people, saying that. Even if someone goes, "Oh, I'm a massive fan of BBR. I listen to you all the time. I do the thing is, would you be interested in having a chat about this other thing?" I still wouldn't. I'm not interested in if I don't want the thing that they're offering. It's still not going to work. It has to be.
But say you
have to want it, and you have to be ready.
Say you were looking into web development, marketing, and sales. I mean, I'm quite surprised those three things were all offered by one person.
It's slightly worrying, isn't it? Exactly. Yeah. Web development, sales, whatever you want. What is it you want? We do it. It doesn't matter. I can do it.
But say you were interested in that, would it make you more likely to pick up the phone, to respond, to almost think I've got more of a connection with this individual?
I don't know. The thing is, running's so weird, isn't it? In the sense that, I could, if someone talked about running to me and they go, "Oh, I'm a half marathon runner, blah, 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 blah," I'd think, do you know what? I'm not a half marathon runner. I don't really connect with that in that way. Because I think, even within running, we kind of separate ourselves. They go, "Oh yeah, I'm an elite ultra runner type thing." I go, "Well, I'm more of a back of the pack type guy, and I don't, and so, so you still wouldn't make the connection that you'd think you'd be making. that emotional connection. If you go, if they would like messaging you and you were going, I came last in the so and so thing and everything, you'd be like, oh, that's quite funny, I might respond to that or whatever.
Yeah.
I do think being kind of funny and vulnerable is a good thing. I find that a much greater thing than to try and, I mean, I'm not saying that engineering a connection, but there's a real sort of Dale Carnegie bullshit thing about it, of like align with other people's interests, and try and make try and talk about things that they're interested in and stuff like that. And so I suppose most people are really, really skeptical of it.
It almost comes across as insincere by trying
exactly.
to...
There's nothing worse than I think that's almost worse, isn't it? Where someone goes, oh, you're into running, I'm into running. Running is how about we jump on a call for 45 minutes? You're like, what? Like, no. Well, the thing is, it goes to show how little they know about me. They go, oh, I see you're a good runner. And I'm like, fucking hell, you know nothing about me, man. Like, you haven't done your research or anything. So I tell you one thing that is really shit that's happened a couple of times. And this is an unbelievably shit thing to do. It's people to inquire about work with my agency really wanting to get on the podcast as a way of speaking to me in order to try and get on the podcast.
Oh, no way. That's happened.
That is the worst. That is the worst of all. I don't know how they think that that's going to play out in the end.
How does that unfold? At what point?
So what they'll do is they'll go, I listened to the podcast, or I've heard the podcast, and they haven't quite heard the podcast, or something like that. Or they do, and they'll be like, oh, I just wanted to inquire about maybe getting some this type of work done or whatever. Maybe we could have a chat. There's a lot of chats involved and stuff, and so you chat and you do you kind of talk to them, and you put a proposal to in front of them and stuff like that, and then they go, maybe I'm not going to kind of focus on that now, but you mentioned that you get kind of these people, and it kind of pivots. You do a proposal, you do all that thing, and then it pivots to them talking about trying to get on the podcast. You're like, what the fuck is going on? Do you think that that's actually a valid way of trying to like get work or something like that? It's unbelievable. I mean, I'm like, right, I hate you now. There's no way.
Can you tell me who it is after?
I'm not going to tell you who it is. I'm not going to tell you
offline.
All right, no. Okay.
Tell me drunk at P11s.
No,
tell me drunk shit.
Well, yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's just shitty. It's like people that that do that, or people that you've. The other thing that happens as well is like people that you've tried to connect with, like on LinkedIn and stuff like that, and and they kind of give you like short shrift and stuff like that, and or they've inquired about stuff before, and and then they find out that you've got a podcast about something, and they never listen to it, they don't want it, but they love the idea of being a podcast thing, and all of a sudden they're all interested again. Oh yeah, we're re-exploring the things that you're talking about. But I also see that you've got a podcast. Like, wait, just leave a gap between talking about the two things. You're so transparent. It's so transparent what you're doing.
Why don't you just embrace it and just snap up loads of business and just be like,
they never buy it. They never. That's the thing. You go to the trouble of like doing like a proposal or talking to them about it and things like that, and they never really want. They don't have any real intention of working with you. They just want to get on. But I just don't understand how they think that's going to play out. Yeah, how they think that's ever going to. Because you see through it right away. It's pretty bad.
Well, I'm gonna put the message in the group and just see what the do-badders what do-badders think, whether it would work for them. And actually, I think if someone had said, hey, so we're a web developer and blah, blah, blah. And then as a sign-off said, oh, I see you're a runner from your LinkedIn, blah, 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 blah. I think that
works better. That works better, absolutely. Because you're not trying to fucking hide a sales message in like going like, oh, it's a runner. Oh my God, there's so few runners around. I feel such a connection to
us runners have got to stick together by you giving me loads of business.
Oh my God, yeah, exactly. Solidarity, dude. Yeah, we've got to stick together because there's so few of us.
Yeah, true. Well, I think that's been a nice little.
Yeah, so actually, we've got loads of. So there's loads of stuff for you to talk about in the group. Okay, so Joe, if you're not in the Facebook group, go to the Facebook group and or talk about this on our social channels, and we can pick it up and know. What do you think about drinking and running? And look, I just want to point out, if you are sober, you don't need to tell us how many fucking days you've been sober. Okay, we know you're sober. Okay, I want to hear about the specifics about, what do you think of the Runner's World article? Do you think that there is a drinking problem? Running has a drinking problem in the context that they're talking about?
Yeah, and should we? I'll ask in the group actually. Should we get on the writer of the article to just discuss how to have a drink? Shall we go for a pub, a beer and a chat? Just to partly discuss the article, but actually just get a sense of where this has come from, and like who commissioned it, or who suggested it, or who researched it, or what was turned down. Because surely if you're going to do it, I can get you like 3 ex-alcoholic runners within 5 minutes. It doesn't take that much. So why didn't they get good guests? Why didn't they get good examples? But that's just it, guys. If there's some guests you want us to get on in the future, then message me, David at badboyrunning.com or on Instagram. And we've got, in terms of episodes coming up, we've got I think Martin Yelling episode's just come out. We've got a really good one to do with walk running and how you can run yourself to a Boston qualifying time.
And you can drink while you're walking. No, you can't.
Exactly.
Don't do that.
And actually, we've recorded, like the Helen Glover interview we just did was super fun. She's amazing.
That was great.
And Josephine Perry, who I interviewed on Monday, who's a sports psychologist, was so good. She'd been recommended by Damo Hall, and I think Joe Pavey as well. And we go into so much to do with motivation, to do with approaches to running, to do with relationship. Brilliant. So if there are any other guests along those lines that you'd like us to interview, then message me. And please do leave a review. It really helps with getting the guests on. What should our word of the day? I love drinking. Put I love drinking in your review. Or Runner's World has a boring problem. Maybe put that down. That could get us into trouble. Either one of those.
Runner's World's had a boring problem for a long time.
It doesn't normally. What have you done, Runner's World? Why have you let us down on this?
I don't know. No. Yeah. I suppose you feel stabbed in the back in many ways.
I do. Yeah. I've grown to love you. Well, actually, I've always liked you guys. And anything else to throw in, Jody, to round off?
No, I don't think so.
Well, we'll see you next time, guys, and thanks for listening.
See you later.
Bye.
Fuck you, buddy.